for Victor Wembanyama?
Same thing I've always been saying, Greeny. I think in 3 years we'll be talking about him being in the conversation as one of the best players in the game of basketball.
Victor Wembanyama has quickly become the most transformative basketball player the NBA has seen in decades. His impact on the San Antonio Spurs and on the league itself goes far beyond the box score. At 7 feet 4 inches, with a rare combination of mobility, skill, and elite basketball IQ, Wemby entered the NBA at just 19 years old and immediately delivered numbers that rivaled what some of the greatest big men in history put up in their prime years. In his rookie campaign, he averaged 21.4 points, 10.6 rebounds, 3.9 assists, and a jaw-dropping 3.3 blocks per game. Those stats alone placed him in elite company. But what truly set him apart was how his presence directly shifted the game itself. When Wembanyama was on the floor, opponents shot 8.2% worse at the rim, a staggering drop that showcased not just rim protection, but psychological intimidation. Teams literally changed their offensive schemes, avoiding the paint altogether and being forced into uncomfortable perimeter-heavy play. And his influence wasn't just on defense. The Spurs' offense looked like two completely different teams depending on whether he played. With Wemby on the court, San Antonio posted an offensive rating of 118.4, a figure that would have led the entire NBA. Without him, they cratered to 106.2. That 12-point swing per 100 possessions is the kind of impact reserved for generational superstars. Unlike traditional big men who needed years to develop strength and timing, Wemby adjusted almost instantly. By his second season, before being sidelined by a deep vein thrombosis issue, he had already raised his scoring to 24.3 points per game while improving efficiency and adding new weapons to his offensive arsenal. Victor Wembanyama isn't just the future of the Spurs. He's actively redefining the game of basketball. Victor Wembanyama didn't just elevate his scoring in year 2. He unveiled an entirely new dimension to his game. His mid-range jumper became reliable. His three-point shooting remained consistent at volume. And on defense, his dominance only intensified. The results were staggering. With Wemby anchoring the paint, San Antonio's defense leapt from 23rd in the league to 5th after the All-Star break. His impact was so overwhelming that whispers of a Defensive Player of the Year award began swirling long before his health setback. But the Spurs' rise isn't only about Wembanyama. It's also about the organization's deliberate long-term strategy, a strategy rooted in the same philosophy that fueled their Tim Duncan-era dynasty, when San Antonio captured 5 championships. This time, though, the Spurs have added a modern twist, an unprecedented stockpile of draft capital. Over the next 6 years, San Antonio controls 24 future draft picks, including the number 2 and number 14 picks in 2025, unprotected first-rounders from Atlanta in 2026 and 2027, swap rights with Boston in 2028, swap rights with Sacramento in 2031, and several other selections scattered throughout the decade. No franchise in the league has more flexibility. The Spurs can stay patient, drafting and developing talent as they've always excelled at, or package picks to chase superstar trades. Either path keeps them positioned to dominate for years to come. And their young core is already taking shape. Alongside Wemby, the Spurs landed De'Aaron Fox, whose lightning-quick speed and playmaking set a relentless offensive tempo. Then came Stephon Castle, the number 4 overall pick in 2024, who immediately validated his selection by winning Rookie of the Year. Castle's versatility, creating shots, defending positions 1 through 4, and thriving in any lineup, has already made him indispensable. The Spurs' next big addition is expected in 2025, Dylan Harper, the projected number 2 pick. A guard often compared to a young De'Aaron Fox, but with more size and refined playmaking instincts, Harper averaged 19.4 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 4 assists in college, while shooting 48% from the field and 33% from 3. His ability to thrive off the ball, cutting, spotting up, and making decisive plays, makes him a perfect fit next to Wemby, who constantly draws double teams. With Wembanyama, Fox, Castle, and Harper, San Antonio already has one of the most talented young rosters in the NBA. But make no mistake, their ambitions go far beyond simply developing talent. Armed with assets, they've been tied to trade rumors involving some of the league's top players. One intriguing name is Trey Murphy III from New Orleans, a 6 feet 9 inches forward averaging 21 points while shooting 38% from 3, Murphy is the type of two-way player who thrives in a Wemby-centered system. His shooting would punish defenses collapsing on Wemby, creating endless open looks. A package involving Jeremy Sochan, the number 14 pick, and a future first-rounder could tempt New Orleans, especially given the Pelicans' ongoing struggles with Zion Williamson's health. Another option is Lauri Markkanen of the Utah Jazz. A 7-footer with career 37% shooting from three, Markkanen would perfectly complement Wemby. Imagine the nightmare for opposing defenses. Wemby dominating the paint while Markkanen stretches the floor from deep. Utah's mediocrity and uncertain direction make them prime trade partners, and San Antonio's draft treasure chest gives them unmatched leverage. And then there's the most ambitious scenario of all, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Should Milwaukee falter in its quest to remain a contender, San Antonio's overwhelming package of picks and young talent could outbid every other team in the league. Pairing Giannis with Wemby wouldn't just be historic, it could redefine the modern era of basketball. San Antonio isn't just building a contender. They're building the NBA's most flexible and dangerous foundation, with Wembanyama as the centerpiece. Whether through the draft or blockbuster trades, the Spurs are positioning themselves not just for relevance, but for dominance. And Wemby's rise has turned their vision into a very real, very frightening possibility for the rest of the league. A front-court pairing of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Victor Wembanyama wouldn't just be dominant. It could completely redefine the physical and strategic limits of modern basketball. Offensively and defensively, their combination of size, mobility, and skill would force opponents into impossible matchups. But here's the reality. The Spurs don't actually need to rush into any blockbuster trade. Their foundation is already strong enough to project them as a 45 to 48 win playoff team by 2025. With continued health and natural growth, San Antonio could realistically ascend to Western Conference elite status before even dipping into their treasure chest of draft capital. Patience is the Spurs' weapon. Their approach is strategic, waiting for rival franchises to hit financial walls or roster limitations, then swooping in at the perfect moment. This is the classic predator-prey model in NBA team building. San Antonio doesn't chase, they wait. And when the opportunity comes, they strike with overwhelming resources. What makes this possible is culture, the Spurs' eternal bedrock. Under Greg Popovich, San Antonio became synonymous with discipline, unselfish play, and maximizing talent through carefully designed systems. That legacy continues under new head coach Mitch Johnson, supported by a front office steeped in Popovich's philosophies. But unlike in past eras, they aren't trying to mold Wembanyama into the next Tim Duncan. Instead, they're embracing his uniqueness. The goal isn't for him to be another Duncan or Robinson. It's for him to become the first true Wembanyama, a once-in-a-generation blend of rim protection, perimeter skill, and guard-like mobility wrapped in a 7 feet 4 inches frame. And the Spurs' developmental history proves they can deliver. DeJounte Murray, taken 29th overall, blossomed into an all-star. Derek White, also drafted 29th, evolved into a championship-caliber guard in Boston. Devin Vassell, picked 11th, has become one of the league's premier 3 and D wings. And of course, Stephon Castle, selected 4th in 2024, has already validated his billing as a franchise cornerstone. These cases demonstrate that San Antonio doesn't just draft talent. They refine and transform it into greatness. Now armed with an unprecedented stockpile of picks, they're positioned to scale this formula bigger than ever. The numbers only amplify Wemby's transformative effect. Opponents attempted just 45.6 shots per 100 possessions in the paint when he was on the floor, a figure that ballooned to 52 when he sat. That difference isn't just rim protection, it's mental domination. Teams actively abandoned their best offensive tendencies simply to avoid him. And that's only one side of the ball. Offensively, Wemby is redefining what a player his size can do. 30-foot pull-up jumpers, Euro steps through traffic, running pick and rolls as the ball handler at 7 feet 4 inches. No one in basketball history has fused elite guard skills with such dominant rim protection and interior scoring. The fan base has responded in kind. San Antonio, once defined by Tim Duncan's fundamentals and the steady brilliance of Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, is now electrified by Wembanyama's nightly highlights. The Frostbank Center has transformed into a cauldron of energy as fans realize they're witnessing something unprecedented. This isn't just another star, it's the birth of a new era. When you combine Wembanyama's impact, San Antonio's proven developmental pipeline, their mountain of draft assets, and their predator-like patience in trade markets, the message becomes impossible to ignore. The future of the NBA runs through San Antonio. And with every season that passes, the Spurs look less like a rebuilding project and more like the league's next dynasty in waiting. The rest of the league isn't just competing with the Spurs. They're preparing for a new age of dominance, one that could last for decades.
Or Victor Wembanyama. Same thing I've always been saying, Greeny. I think in 3 years, we'll be talking about him being in the conversation as one of the best players in the game of basketball.
I think Victor Wembanyama will absolutely be in that conversation. The size, the length, the basketball IQ, it's all there. What stood out last night won't dominate the headlines because it's not a polarizing topic, but it was his maturity. People always ask, is he going to get pushed around? Does he need to put on more weight? And sure, he'll naturally fill out as he gets older. That's just how development works. But here's the thing, he doesn't need to bulk up 35 or 40 pounds to reach his peak. My football guys always say, man, he looks a little narrow. But basketball isn't football. On the court, he's already figured out how to use his length and footwork to counter any physical disadvantage. He can roll off the opposite elbow, force defenders to retreat 3 or 4 steps, and create space with skill, not mass. He doesn't need to become Nikola Jokic. He doesn't need to be anyone else. His game is Victor Wembanyama, unique, versatile, and built for the modern NBA. And trust me, with that skill set, he's going to be just fine.
T.G. Jackson say players around the league have told him to stop meat riding after he claimed Victor Wembanyama will end up as the GOAT. I'm looking 10, 12 years from now when he's got an extra 30 pounds and a nice goatee with a mustache. I think Wemby will be the GOAT.
I'm looking 10 to 12 years down the line when Victor Wembanyama's added 30 pounds and is rocking a goatee with a mustache. At that point, I truly believe he could be the GOAT. But let's be real. Adding 30 pounds on that frame seems unlikely. Still, even without it, he's going to be very, very good.
Gonna be Michael Jordan. You know, he's gonna be up there, you know, in the top tier, but not the elite of the elite.
What you think, Swish? You like what you see? I mean, a 7'4" guy, 7'4.5", however tall he is. I mean, he's towering over Rudy Gobert. And they say Rudy Gobert is 7'1". Right. So he's at least 7'3.5", 7'4". I'm gonna say 7'4". He might be even 7'5". But we've never seen a guy his height.
He's not going to be LeBron. He's not going to be Michael Jordan. But he's absolutely going to be in that top tier, even if not quite the elite of the elite. What do you think, Swiss? You like what you see? I mean, come on, this guy is 7 feet 4 inches, maybe even 7 feet 5 inches. He towers over Rudy Gobert, and Gobert is listed at 7 feet 1 inch. So realistically, Wembanyama's got to be at least 7 feet 3 inches and a half, maybe taller. But here's the crazy part. We've never seen a player that size move like him. Normally, guys that tall are cumbersome. Think Manu Bol, Gheorghe Muresan, or Sean Bradley. Massive frames, but limited mobility. Wembanyama is completely different. At his size, with that athleticism, coordination, and fluid movement, he's rewriting the blueprint for what a 7-footer can be.